Welcome, everybody, to a Thirsty Thursday edition of The Sweat presented by DraftKings. I am Emerson Latzia. Coming up in this show, a big name hits the NFL free agent market. Stanley Cup Final Game 3 bets. Why Messi is coming to America. Put up your bukes. But first, check it, baby. Remember when Mike Malone ripped his team's efforts after Game 2 of the NBA Finals? Because I do. Last night, his stars responded with an unprecedented effort. Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray becoming the first teammates in NBA history, regular season or playoffs, to record 30-point triple-doubles in the same game. And just like that, Denver is back to doing Denver things after a 109-94 victory. We got DraftKings' Julian Edlow and Nick Fryer here, along with RotoWire's Nick Whalen. Time to talk about the sport of basketball. Jules, it is clear the Heat are not just facing the best team in the Western Conference, they're facing two of the best players in the game, period. Can you confirm that?
Yeah, Jokic is the best player in the NBA. I think we can all confirm that. And Jamal Murray is probably underrated, maybe, based on where the general perspective of him would have been entering this postseason. Kind of forgotten about because of the ACL injury that cost him so much time and maybe cost Denver a couple of cracks at winning the Western Conference. They were right there in the bubble against the Lakers with Murray and Jokic, and now with him finally back and healthy, here they are in the NBA Finals. So I think it took everything from those two stars to get a win in Miami, and Miami's role players having a poor game, and an unexpected big game from a role player like a Christian Brown for Denver to break away and get that game. So I think a lot of things broke Denver's way. And if Jokic and Murray come down just a little bit, if you don't get that from Christian Brown, if some combination of Strus and Duncan Robinson and Gabe Vincent and Caleb Martin start making shots, I think we could see this turn a little bit. But in terms of Game 3, yes, absolute domination from Denver.
Whalen, third straight home loss for the Heat after winning their first six games of the playoffs. Where was their effort and urgency last night?
I thought it was there in the first half. And, it was tough for Miami because I thought they played great in the first quarter. The crowd was into it. I thought they played a pretty good second quarter. And then you look up and they're down 5 at the half. That's just the reality of playing Denver. It's like you feel like you're playing really well. Some things are going your way. Bam Adebayo's playing well again. And, you kind of have the atmosphere of like, oh, we're up 10. We're doing well. We're rolling at home. But Denver just found an answer over and over and over. Jamal Murray was so much better last night than he was at Game 2. A lot more aggressive. Felt like every jumper was going down for him. And I think what's especially devastating for Miami was, at least for me, watching this game in the first half, I thought, man, Jokic has been kind of quiet. He hasn't really been doing a whole lot. You look up and he's got 14 and 14. And then, of course, by the end of the game, he's got 32, 21, and 10. Obviously, another 30-point triple-double for Jamal Murray. I mean, Denver started to feel a little bit inevitable. And you try not to swing too drastically in your opinion from game to game. But, man, I mean, they went 5 of 18. The Nuggets went 5 of 18 from 3 on the road and won this game pretty comfortably.
Okay, so Fryer, we've been giving Spo tons of credit up to this point in the postseason, and rightfully so. But what about on the other side here? How much credit does Mike Malone deserve?
He deserves a ton of credit because when you look at what's happening with Denver's three-point game, it's been pretty much non-existent. Michael Porter Jr. has been a shell of himself. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was shooting the lights out in the Lakers series, and those two guys have done nothing here. You've seen Aaron Gordon become an important part of the offense throughout the course of the postseason, but he's been an X factor in this series. But it's the two-man game that has just been unstoppable, and the way they're leaning on Jokic, but also opening things up for Murray too. And now we're seeing him facilitate in a way that he really didn't throughout the regular season. So Malone's made some big adjustments, and obviously calling out his players in the way that he did. Clearly, he has the ear of that locker room in the way that a head coach should.
So, Whalen, where's the value now when it comes to betting the rest of this series?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, if you were on Denver to win the series, obviously you want to bet that as early as you can. I think their series line is up to minus 800 or 850. So there's not a ton of value there. I already bet Denver in 6, so maybe you double down on that. Maybe you hedge a little bit, go with Denver in 5. You can still get that at plus money at the DK Sportsbook. That's at plus 110. Obviously, if you're a Miami believer, now's the time to put down some money there. I don't know that I would necessarily suggest that. But if you do like Miami, I would bet Jimmy Butler at 7-1 to win Finals MVP. I think if they do claw back into this series, it's hard to imagine Butler not being the driving force behind that. And then a couple other ones that you have your options at the DK Sportsbook. I like the Nuggets minus 1.5 games in this series. They can win it in 6, they can win it in 5. That's at minus 250. And then Jamal Murray to lead the NBA Finals in total assists is at plus 280. And Jokic is hot on his tail, but Murray has 2 more assists than Jokic right now through 3 games, and you're getting that at almost 3-1.
All right, Fryer, what say you here?
Waylon makes a good point about the Murray prop. That's interesting. I was looking at this more from just a series-long prop from in the teams and everything. Series spread, total games, and exact result markets are the only ways to go right now when you're just looking at how the series is going to unfold. Denver is minus 2.5. To win by 2.5 games is plus 110. Same for the series to go 5 games. Series going 6 games is plus 210. I think right now that is more appealing because Julian did make some good points when he was talking about the Heat in that last game. Look, they could still steal one at home. They could even steal one in Denver if they end up losing this game here. The Heat do not care. Like if they can be, we've talked about how much they can be down and they still mount comebacks. So I think this series is going to go 6 games. Another option too, if this goes 6 games, Nuggets, the exact outcome for this to be a 4-2 series finish is plus 260.
All right, Jules, where's the value?
This has been a tough series to find value all along. Like Denver opens up a massive favorite. The only way you can bet him is on a series spread. I wound up laying minus 205 on win game 1 and win the series double result, which was value because other books were showing minus 340. So at this point, I don't know if I'm going to bet the series. I think the only place there is value is if you like Miami. You're going to bet them at this stage because the price has changed so drastically. Once Denver takes its lead, you're looking at minus 6, 7, 800 favorites. And then when the series is knotted, it's a little bit more, balanced. So, but if you're going to bet Miami for the series, the question is, do you actually believe in them for the series, or do you think they're just going to come back and even it up on Friday night, in which case you have the Heat money line plus 135 sitting there and you don't have to worry about the rest of it. So in terms of the series, yeah, I probably would lay a game and a half with Denver, but you want to do that before last night. So long story short, I'm talking in circles. I'm sitting out the series. I'll give you plays, player props, Friday night plays, but nothing for the series right now.
I mean, Fryer, throughout the postseason, they're like, we've seen how resilient the Heat can be. So how the hell do they grab momentum here once again?
Well, there's 2 things for me that stand out. And I already talked a little about the 2-man game, so I don't want to talk about it too much more. But figuring out a way to slow that down, I don't know if that's slowing down Murray, but I mean, you can't really slow down Nikola Jokic. We all know that full well by now. But when you look at the offensive end, I mean, Butler was much more aggressive in this game. I know he narrowly got over his points prop, and I believe that's the first time he's done that in this series. But it seemed like even in the Celtics series, he kind of slowed down in terms of looking for his shot. Obviously, hunting fouls is his game, and he wasn't able to really do that much in this last game, or much at all in this series so far. But you need him to go and look for that little shot right outside the paint along the baseline. That's his bread and butter. And there's not many people who can contest that shot and disrupt it a whole heck of a lot because you need that too, because if the 3-point shooting isn't there like we've been talking about, then how is Miami going to contend in a game? And their 3-point shooting to me should be a little bit more complimentary, especially the way that Bam has been able to attack the rim.
All right, Jules.
Yeah. What is this? Still the value question?
No. It's how do you think the Heat can kind of grab momentum here? Like, what the hell do they need to do to actually win Game 4?
All right, I wasn't listening to Nick. I was looking at some odds for Game 4.
No worries. Wow. You're doing your job. No, you're doing your job. I will not crap on you. I will not crap on you for this.
Yeah, it did prepare me for this question. It's a Heat spot, Game 4. It's Heat or nothing. Miami is 5-2 off a loss in this postseason, and those 2 losses were the string of 3 losses to the Celtics that they lost in a row from 3-0 to 3-3. So not to let them off the hook, but it came against just given the pricing, the best team in the NBA, those losses in a row, and it came against a much more urgent team playing in elimination games in all of those. And Miami had some rope to give there. The pressure wasn't on them. The pressure is on Miami in Game 4. If they want to make this a series, you have to win it. So I think this is a typical bounce back spot for Miami. We saw what they did in game 2 after the loss to Denver. I think Spoelstra is going to make some adjustments. I think that you're not going to get quite that good of a game from Jokic and Murray. You're not going to get the same game from Christian Brown. Maybe KCP or Michael Porter Jr., shows up to the party a little bit, but those Miami role players that you got nothing from in game 3, some combination of the Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus crew is going to show up. So for me, this is going to be Miami or pass. And the best trend in this series is the first half unders, which are 3-0 and priced much too high. And I think with more adjustments, we're going to continue to see slow starts. So Miami for the game and first half unders, just a trend that you can continue to ride.
All right, well, then what needs to change here for game 4? Because we saw in game 3, Jimmy Butler got his. Is it as simple as what Jules just mentioned, like Miami role players? That's the only thing that really needs to change for them. They got to step up.
In some ways, it is that simple. I mean, that's part of the reason that they made it all the way to the NBA Finals. Is it feels like 3 out of 4 games, they're hitting somewhere between like 13 and 17 threes, and a lot of those are coming from Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, Caleb Martin. So, obviously they can't really survive when they're going 11 for 35, even when Denver's going 5 for 18. That to me is what is kind of ringing the alarm bells. If I'm Miami, is okay. We got an off shooting night from Denver. We technically shot the ball better than they did from 3, and we still weren't all that competitive in this game throughout the fourth quarter. So you could say, those guys need to shoot the ball better. Gabe Vincent can't be 1 of 6. Strus can't be 1 of 4. That's all well and good, but you also have to expect Denver to shoot it better in game 4 as well, even on the road. I would go back to something that Fryer hinted at. I think Jimmy Butler needs to be more aggressive getting to the line, and that's easier said than done. You got to go in there and be willing to do the dirty work, and Denver has done a great job, not just in this series, but even against the Lakers in the West Finals, of not fouling. I mean, that's the Lakers' entire game, and they struggled to get to the line as effectively in that series as well. I mean, Jimmy Butler has 11 free throw attempts through the first 3 games. I mean, he had games where he was putting up 11 plus in one single game earlier in these playoffs. So it's not as simple as Jimmy Butler just needs to score more points. I think it's putting more pressure on that Nuggets defense, getting to the line, and trying to get some of these key players in foul trouble earlier in the game.
All right, Jules, quickly here before you guys take off. Anything game 4 specific you like on the DK Sportsbook right now? Heat 3.5-point underdogs at home, total sitting at 210.5.
Yeah, I'm on the fence if I'm going to play the Heat. I got a day to decide, but there's no reason to stop riding the first half under trend. So first half under would be my most confident play at the moment.
What's your most confident play at the moment, Waylon?
I'll ride the Heat money line at plus 135. This is kind of their season, right? And they've responded in this spot like 3 or 4 times already in the playoffs. If they lose and they go down 3-1 with the series heading back to Denver, I just don't feel great about that. Love Julian's call on the first half under. I would still lean under at 210.5. I know that's like 4 points less than game 3 came in, but this game is being played at like a 2006 Pistons pace.
Fryer, game 4 du jour, your bet.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jamal Murray here. I'm not going to go with his points like I've been doing in game 1 and game 2, or game 3, but I'm going to go with his assists over 7.5. We talked about already a ton of his facilitating. And if his hand is at all an issue in this game, because we saw it pop up a little bit at the end here, then he's going to have to play more facilitator role. But we're not reliant on that. The 2-man game right now just gives him too many opportunities to feed Jokic.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. So game 3 of the NBA Finals was last night. Tonight, game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final will arrive. What chance our analysts are giving the Panthers to bounce back at home against the dominating Golden Knights coming up next. The Panthers with the tough task now of clawing their way out of a 2-0 hole in the Stanley Cup final against the Golden Knights. Game 3 will be tonight. So they were trampled on the Strip in Las Vegas, losing 7-2 Monday in Game 2. They dropped the series opener 5-2 Saturday. Florida went to Vegas with hopes of winning big, but hopped on a red-eye home, beaten and downtrodden, and it's been known to happen to plenty, right? With big dreams heading to Sin City. NHL.com's Pete Jensen, RotoWire's riveting duo of AJ Schultz and Paul Bruno here for some NHL opening face-off. Who here is surprised that Vegas is entering this game not only with a 2-0 series lead, but how they've dominated up to this point? Paul, is that you raising your hand?
Absolutely. Absolutely shocked. I mean, the three teams that had better records than the Vegas Knights fell prey to the Florida Panthers forecheck, and that's the biggest surprise to me in this series, that the Panthers, despite trying to continue to be physical, the Vegas Knights have fought through it, and we were all wondering how long can Bobrovsky continue the role that he was on. Well, I guess we got our answer. He's been terrible in the first two games in this set, and he needs a big bounce back if they have any kind of chance at all.
Yeah, where did this goalie problem come from all of a sudden, Pete?
I mean, it's the high volume of grade A scoring chances that Florida has been allowing for the past 2 years really running, and it's caught up to them here. It was an astonishing first 3 rounds for Florida. They were an elite road team, 8 straight road victories. I mean, that's why they got this far, and Bob was standing on his head. But, I mean, the 5-on-5 onslaught for Vegas in this series and the postseason at large, 9-3 5-on-5 differential in the series, 58-26, by far the most 5-on-5 goals of any team in the league by about 20 for Vegas. So they've just been dominating at even strength all postseason long, and it's catching up to Florida here. They got to batten down the hatches and kind of like recover from this and regain their swagger in Game 3. Otherwise, it's too late.
AJ, Pete just mentioned the firepower here by this Vegas offense, which, by the way, Golden Knights have had 9 different goal scorers already this series, the most ever through 2 games of a Stanley Cup final. It just feels simply overwhelming for Florida.
When you want to know the irony of those 9 goal scorers, one of them is not Jack Eichel. He hasn't scored in 9 games, but he's dishing out helpers endlessly, really. And so if he starts scoring goals, it's just going to get even that much worse for the Florida Panthers here. You know, I had originally said probably 6-game win for Vegas, 6-game series win for Vegas here. At this point, it's probably looking closer like 5 if they can take one in Florida here and then just go home and close it out in Game 5. So I'm not surprised by the 2-0 deficit, but I agree. I am surprised by how they've gotten to a 2-0 deficit. Just Bobrovsky from basically the third period of Game 1 on has completely fallen apart. Alex Lyon didn't look that great coming in relief, although that's not an easy task for anybody. But we saw Vegas do this to Dallas too, where they came out in the first period against an establishedly good netminder in Jake Ottinger, and just brought it to them and got the #1 goalie chased in a couple of those games as well. So it's how they use their firepower to, overwhelm the opposition and get a strong start to the game.
So, Pete, Florida is finished tonight if they don't win, correct?
I think it's safe to say. I would just say that, like with Vegas, I mean, how is it really going to be this easy for Aiden Hill, who came into the year as their 4th string goalie, to win the Stanley Cup? I mean, maybe there will be some regression at some point in the series. It's been honestly mind-boggling to see him go on a run like this. All due respect to the player, but it's just, I don't think any of us in the industry would have ever seen it coming with how closely we cover all the goalie tandems. And I thought it would have been Logan Thompson, but he's injured, or maybe even Jonathan Quick or Laurent Brossoit. Remember, Brossoit started the postseason as Vegas' starting goalie when they beat Winnipeg. So yeah, it's just crazy stuff going on. But yeah, with Florida, I mean, they've been a pretty good home team in rounds 2 and 3 of the postseason. And of course, they also were down 2 games, 3-1 in the series against the Boston Bruins before coming back. So it's not like Florida's just been cruising to this point and now they're facing their first adversity of the playoffs. They've been there and done that before. We'll see if they could do it again.
Similar to their South Florida counterpart in the Miami Heat here, Paul. What chance would you give Florida if, in the rest of this series, if they lose this game tonight?
I give them zero chance, but
Yep.
if they win tonight, that chance goes up to as much as 50%. That's just the swinging nature of these entire playoffs. Like we were saying before the show, I don't know anybody who has had great luck predicting the outcomes of the series this year because of so many upsets and strange results and road team dominance, all those things factoring in more than ever in terms of the playoff trek. And tonight's game is obviously a pivotal one. It's either going to be 3-0 and the series over, or 2-1 with each team defending home ice. And at that point, you got to say, hey, nobody's lost anything here. They've both defended their turf, and that's cool. And that begs for a long series. So it's really, really imperative for Florida to hold serve tonight and put a little bit of doubt in the minds of the Vegas Knights. Otherwise, they'll be planning the parade route.
Yeah, AJ, let's not forget Florida did score a pair of third period goals in game 2, so they can take something positive home here.
Well, Paul Maurice alluded to this. The positive that they need to show up here is they positively need Matthew Tkachuk not to get a game misconduct.
Yep.
That would be a great thing for them at this point in the series. So let's just keep Tkachuk on the ice, step number 1. So then maybe they have something to build on here. Pete alluded to this. Adin Hill came in as, probably about the 4th in the depth chart when they traded for him in August for a 4th-round pick. That trade looks like a genius move. They obviously knew, it came out a few days after that trade that Robin Lehner wasn't going to play this season. They obviously knew that was a concern. So they made the move to shore up their AHL net mining, and it has come through and is paying dividends in the Stanley Cup final.
Pete, you fantasy guru, you hook me up with a captain for showdown plays tonight on DraftKings.
So I'm definitely expecting a bounce back from Matthew Tkachuk, and a good way to tap into him at a value in DFS is Sam Bennett. No goals on 38 shots during his 10-game goal drought. Maybe it's a little bit risky, but at this point in the postseason, I mean, there aren't that many angles, other than maybe like what AJ said, like if you go heavy on Eichel and hope he ends his goal drought. One step further is to go heavy on Sam Bennett and the exposure to all the clutch play Matthew Tkachuk has had this postseason, especially at home, right, with the 3 overtime winners this postseason. And I mean, also Carter Verhaeghe has 3 game-winning goals, and 2 of them have been in overtime as well. So these are guys to sprinkle into your lineup for sure. But I like Sam Bennett and the physical nature that he brings. If Florida wins this game, a lot of it is probably going to come from the Bennett-Tkachuk line, restraining themselves to an extent, but also making their presence felt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I certainly do. AJ, which side are you looking at for your captain tonight?
I mean, I've said Jonathan Marchessault for like 3 straight segments on this. There's no reason to stop doing that. He hasn't shown any reason to doubt him here. I cashed in my Game 2 showdown with him. Had 3 points in that one. He's still coming in priced below Eichel, below Tkachuk, and below the goalies at 13-8 here for the captain play. 7 goals and 7 contests. I'm not going to mess with a working system right now. So for me, Jonathan Marchessault as my captain.
He has catapulted himself into the race for the Conn Smythe Trophy, AJ. Paul, who's your captain tonight?
I'm looking at the Panthers bounce back, so all their offensive leaders and team leaders are in play tonight. That means Tkachuk, obviously, Barkov for sure, and maybe even Montour from the blue line are considerations. But the bottom line is they got to get a better goaltending effort. I'm going for the goalie win and Bobrovsky to bounce back. He's got to get his group back, otherwise this set is over. So my mind is looking squarely at him to say, you got to step up tonight and show up, or else it's done. And so I'm going to give him one more chance.
All right, AJ, we know who you're spending 1.5 times the salary on, but receiving 1.5 times the points in return for. Now save us some cash and give us some production. Your top value play tonight.
Well, I really don't mean to sound like a broken record here, but Ivan Barbashev is still priced under $6K, coming in at 5,200. That has moved up, and that's because he's on a 4-game point streak. But he's still underpriced when you consider he's a first-line winger that's playing with Marchessault and Jack Eichel. It's just too good to pass up at 5,200 for me. Yeah, you could consider like a Brett Howden for 2K as an ultimate low spend option. That did work last time out. I'm not sure it's going to work again. So I'll go Barbashev with at 52 for my value play here.
Pete, how far down the board are you going to go for your value play?
So there are a couple guys. I like Riley Smith, 6,600 in these showdown contests. Riley Smith, 7 points in 8 road games this postseason. He's a part of that third line with William Karlsson that I feel like could be a big difference maker as this series goes on. Riley Smith also is a former Florida Panther, so going back to Florida in that scene, you got to imagine there's going to be a little extra motivation, like there has been for Jonathan Marchessault so far in this series. So yeah, I feel like Riley Smith, another one of those original Golden Knights, has a chance to loom large here as the series goes on. I feel like those guys are going to start to come to play and really finish this thing off for Vegas when it's all said and done.
Paul, which guy do you expect to step up tonight in the value play department?
You know what? I'm going a lot cheaper than both of my partners here because I'm spending a lot on the big boys too. So filling in the roster, I'm going to go either with one guy on either team. I'll say Nick Cousins, second line wing position for him, only $3,400. He's been quiet for the last 6 games in the playoffs, but was a solid contributor earlier in the postseason. And I think they got to get a big game out of him to help their cause tonight. On the flip side, Michael Amadio has emerged as something of a solid top 6 option where he played fourth line much of the season. He's coming in at $4,000, despite the fact he's got 2 goals in the last 3 games and 4 in the postseason. So one of those 2 guys emerges as a big play tonight. It's a good, cheap value.
AJ, take us home with your best bet for Game 3, quickly.
I'm just going to take Vegas on the money line. You're getting really good value for them because they are technically not favored on the road. So I just stick with that. Golden Knights money line for me.
Paul?
Parlay, Florida to win under 6.
All right. Pete, who's winning this one? Come on.
I think the Panthers. I don't expect this to be a sweep. I think Bobrovsky will probably have a high save volume if he does win. So keep an eye out for that. But Bobrovsky's been too darn good this whole postseason to completely fall apart like this. He can handle the heavy save volume for at least 1 game.
Paul, I see that smirk on your face. All right, dudes, hockey guys, your job here is done. AJ, keep that soccer kit on your body because, well, you've got competition in the race for the sweaty boot. There will be a victory speech, and you will not be the one giving it, AJ, right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a victory lap Thursday for our guys who have been battling it out for the sweaty boot, dishing out successful, for the most part, EPL bets and picks all season long. Chinmay Vaidya joining the show. AJ has returned. Before we award you, Chinmay, for your success this season, I need to ask you, because you're a big basketball dude as well, I need to ask you, how close did Game 3 last night play out to your expectations entering it?
I didn't think it would be as one-sided as it ended up being late in the game. The Heat have had plenty of double-digit comebacks late, so obviously you can't count Miami out. And there was an opportunity late for the Heat with a couple of shots to eventually cut that deficit down and make things interesting. But ultimately, the Denver Nuggets basically had the game plan of our top two stars are better than your top two stars. And as long as other role players don't step up, we're going to win. And that's basically what we saw. We saw two 30-point triple-doubles from Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. That's the first time that it's been done in the playoffs or the finals. And then Jokic had a 30-20-10 game, which is the first time that has ever been done in the finals. So that was the adjustment, if you can even call it an adjustment, from Mike Malone from Game 2 to Game 3, was just trust the stars. And as long as we limit Miami's secondary scorers, our two guys are better than their two guys.
Okay, well, let's get to what you two are here for. You're here to talk about the beautiful game. And Chinmay, I must ask you, why is Messi, a player so popular that rumors of his appearance gridlock major cities, why is he coming to play in the States with Inter Miami?
It's a very interesting question, because it's obviously not completely about the money. There's a good portion of this which is financial, but it's not completely about the money, because he could have gone to Saudi Arabia for north of $1 billion if you've seen some of the reports on his contract. He's still playing at an extremely high level in Europe. He had 16 goals and 16 assists last year for Paris Saint-Germain. So it's not like he's dropped off significantly in terms of play, and he is the global draw. He is arguably the best player in the history of soccer. Many could argue that, and he's coming off a tremendous year with the World Cup and a domestic season. So it is interesting to see him make this move. I will say that Inter Miami, since David Beckham took over Inter Miami and had this club going, we've seen international players, prominent international players, come to Inter Miami. And that was always going to be the question: can David Beckham lure these players and grow MLS? And he got the biggest one now. And we'll see when Messi makes his MLS debut, and we'll see exactly how much interest he draws. But I think that this is going to be the biggest moment for MLS in the last 5 or 6 years in terms of international players. We had Vela, we had Zlatan, we had a little bit of Wayne Rooney, even Gonzalo Higuain is a decent name. Yeah. But this is Leo Messi. This is the king of all kings. So I think this is gonna really elevate the profile of MLS on a much larger scale than some of those other guys.
Yeah, it kind of takes me to my next question here with AJ. Just like, what impact do you see this having on MLS and American soccer really long term here? We know the excitement level now, like ticket prices are already through the roof in all of these cities because he's going to join Inter Miami in July. So people are looking at those visiting cities that they're going to be at.
Yeah, I mean, for starters, as Chinmay alluded to, clearly not all about the money. He came out and said, the last 2 years living in Paris has been tough. I can't imagine he'd want to go live in Saudi Arabia then. So maybe South Beach is where it's at for him.
Yeah, and you know his wife probably had a say in that as well.
Happy wife, happy life is the way to go with that one. So I'm sure if she wanted to go to South Beach, he said yes there. Look, it's part of the future plan with his contract that supposedly includes partial ownership in Inter Miami rather, after his playing career comes to a close. So that's certainly a factor to have long-term investments with that. And for the league, this is probably the closest thing we can compare to was David Beckham's own move to the LA Galaxy and what that brought to the forefront in terms of MLS and the product here. So I do think him potentially being a face of ownership on a team in the future could really help. There's so many other problems that MLS has that are going to be hard for them to overcome on a world stage. But I do think that helps if you have an ownership group eventually that includes David Beckham and Lionel Messi. And look, I'll throw in one long shot play on the DK Sportsbook right now. Messi to end the year as top goal scorer is plus 4,000. He's only back 10 goals right now. So if he gets on the field sooner rather than later, maybe he can track that one down. I don't hate Messi at plus 4,000 to lead MLS in goals.
Plus, he's going to feel comfortable in Miami, right? He's had property there. I think he pushes like tourism in the Miami area as well. He's getting, I know he's taking less money here, guys, but he's getting that ridiculous incentive package. Like he's getting a chunk of Apple TV Plus, Adidas. I think he can buy stake in the team as well, which certainly beats the hell out of a company parking spot and a discount on swag, AJ.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, the Apple TV Plus deal, I think, can't be an undersold aspect to this. You know, their subscriber base should skyrocket, not only from the U.S., but from around the world. And if he's getting even pennies on the dollar for that one, that'll pay off dividends very quickly.
All right, gentlemen. Chinmay, Champions League final, Saturday, between Man City and Inter Milan. What's the bet? What's the best bet? Your best bet for this matchup?
There's actually a lot of intriguing ones for me. Ilkay Gundogan has been on fire for Man City. If you like him as an anytime goal scorer, that's coming in at plus 280. But if you want him to score or assist, that's coming in at plus 130. And I think that's much more likely. I think he has 6 goals plus assists in the last 5 games across all competitions. On the other side, Lautaro Martinez for Inter Milan has been scoring left and right. I think he has 6 goals in his last 6 games across all competitions. That's plus 280 for him to put one in the back of the net. But I think my best bet is on the total for this game. Under 2.5 total goals comes in at plus 110. The last 4 Champions League finals have all gone under this number. The last 2 finals have been 1-0. So I think we see much tighter defensive game. Teams try to contain each other, not give up that opening goal. I think we see a low-scoring final once again between Man City and Inter Milan.
AJ, what is atop your betting card for this matchup?
Well, I think the trick here is how to get value out of Man City, because I think they're heavily favored, and I think they should be here. So I've got 2 options for you. Haaland to score and City to win comes in at minus 110 on the player parlays over on the DK Sportsbook. It's not a ton of value, but it's better than taking, say, City money line. And then I also like just taking City on the spread. Minus 1.5 goals comes in plus 110. Like Chinmay mentioned, usually low-scoring games, but these games also usually haven't had Erling Haaland playing in them. So we could get at least 2 City goals from here, just from him. You know, and there's several other attacking options in this one for City as well. So I think covering the spread is another real good option to get value out of Man City.
Well, after a grueling, long, and quite successful EPL season, the battle for the sweaty boot is complete. Chinmay Vaidya, from all of us here at DraftKings, congratulations. You are the one hoisting das sweaty boot. Wow, look at the Billy special. You have your own kit. This is incredible. And AJ, not to crap on you, I believe you only finished 1 pick behind him. Chinmay, the floor is yours. Time for that victory speech you have been preparing all week long.
Thank you, Emerson, and thank you to everyone at DraftKings for allowing me to pursue this award all season long. It's been a pleasure. Winning this sweaty boot has been the highlight of the year, a nice lead-in to what should be a very successful summer for all of us here. I would also like to thank AJ for providing a very stiff competition throughout the season. You can't get it done without having strong opposition on the other side. I know we missed on some picks. For those of you out there who are following us all year, I know we missed on quite a bit of picks, but hopefully we made you enough money over the course of the whole season with the ones that we did hit. We tried to get enough value out of it for you guys, and I'm really digging that kit. I think I'll like to, if we can customize that and get some actual kits out there, that would be something to look into with the sweaty boot winnings. But Thank you to everybody for this award, and let's do it again next year.
Okay, sweaty boot kits coming to the DK shop. Nope, do not listen to me. AJ, congrats though on finishing top 2. Gentlemen, thank you so much. We've got to get to put up your bukes right after this quick break. Baseball, lots of it. In a move many were expecting, the Minnesota Vikings have cut ties with star running back Dalvin Cook, a move that primarily had to do with money, which is why the team failed to find a trade partner for the 27-year-old because of that fat contract. DK, Steve Buchanan, Gary and Thor, Tanner Kern, welcome to the show, gentlemen. Before we dive into tonight's baseball slate, Bukes, which team should do whatever it takes to land this guy's services? And why should it be Garyon's Miami Dolphins?
I mean, I was gonna say you should probably go to Garion, but it looks like he doesn't even want Dalvin Cook. I mean, I guess Garion is okay with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson as your running backs. I don't know why you wouldn't want to add somebody like Dalvin Cook to the mix there, but the Vikings, this is something they needed to do. They essentially doubled their available cap space, which is just a mirage of crap anyways, but it doubled their cap space on paper to about 18 million. So it was a move that needed to be done, but I'm shocked that Garion doesn't seem to be very interested.
Garion, why are you not interested here? I know that's a crowded running back room, but this guy would be by far head and shoulders better than anyone else you have there.
I mean, that's not even necessarily true. They took Devin Archine out of Texas A&M in the draft. Here's the thing you don't do as an NFL front office. Pay for a running back who's got 6 seasons of tread on the tires. There's a reason the Vikings aren't paying this guy and don't want the cap space that he's taking up. Don't pay for... How are we still having this conversation? It is 2023. Don't pay money for running backs. From a fantasy perspective, pretty simple in Minnesota. I think Alexander Mattison becomes a high-end RB2. A little concerned about how underutilized the Vikings running backs were in their passing game last season. Wherever Cook ends up, I honestly don't know if there's a single situation he could land in where he is clearly going to be the number 1 running back. You hear a lot about Miami, you hear a lot about the Jets. Those would be committee situations. So I don't know. I think that when the dust settles, there's a very reasonable chance that Madison is a higher draft pick this season than Dalvin Cook.
Okay, I've heard Dolphins, Bills, Tanner, Bears, Cardinals, 49ers. He'll have several suitors. Which landing spot makes the most sense?
Yeah, I could see him going to Miami. I think a strong run game to balance out what they're doing in the passing game would help them a lot here. But overall, I kind of agree with Garion too. You don't want to overpay for a running back. There's a reason the Vikings let him go, right? They owed him over $30 million over the next 3 seasons. It's just not worth it, especially with the guy who does have 6 years of tread on the tire and also has shown some injuries over the course of his career. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I like him in Miami, but again, don't overpay for running backs.
All right, guys, now it's time for the highest rated segment in this show's historic history. It is Put Up Your Bukes. We're going to have to move quick through this thing. Steve, first 5 bet, which one are you targeting? And then we'll see if Gare Bear and Tanner agree or want to put up their bukes.
Yeah, glad we got to talk about plenty of hockey and soccer crap. Great show. Let's talk about Houston and Toronto going under 4 runs through the first 5 innings here tonight. Houston, very right-handed bat heavy, which is where Barrios doesn't struggle. He struggles really against lefties. He's been so solid against righties. 254 WOBA against them on the year. Then you have Valdez going for the Astros. He's been one of the best pitchers in the league thus far. He's gone at least 6 innings in all but 2 of his starts so far this year. Toronto, not a good team against lefties so far this season. There's a lot of guys on there that can hit lefties, just hasn't come to fruition. Give me under 4 runs to the first 5.
Garion Bukes is putting up his bukes with our producer, Samir. Time for you to put up your bukes for his first 5 bet, please.
Yeah, I don't hate it, but I'll go in an opposite direction here. I'll take the Cubs over 2.5 runs in the first 5 innings at plus 130. I just really like the juice on this bet. If you look at Reed Detmer's statistics this season, he really has been incredibly unlucky. He's much better than the surface numbers suggest. However, he's 0-5, and he's got a 5.90 ERA in his last 6 starts. Things have just not gone particularly well, and he doesn't help himself. He's got a walk rate over 10% in that span of time. Meanwhile, the Cubs kind of fall into that bucket of the Nationals and, a couple other teams who aren't overwhelming offensive teams, but hit left-handed pitching really well. They have a 115 WRC plus. So I think they can score some runs early off of Reed Detmers.
Tanner, where you going here, dude?
Yeah, so I don't mind Steve's play, but again, we always got to disagree with Steve here. So I'm going to go with the over of 5 in the Cubs-Angels first 5 here. So kind of parlaying off what Garion was saying there. I do like both teams to score. Both teams absolutely mash lefties. Cubs are hitting 270 off lefties compared to 237 off righties. Angels 282 compared to 250. So when I look at this with the pitching matchup here, Drew Smyly's been good, but going to have a tough matchup against an Angels offense that hits lefties. And then Reed Detmers, he has gotten unlucky, as Garion was saying, but the bottom line is he's still 0-5 with a 5.15 ERA and a 1.54 WHIP. The walks haven't been there. So I am going to go with the over 5 in the first 5.
Bukes, full game bet.
Yeah, give me the Red Sox and Guardians to go over 8.5 runs here tonight. The Red Sox have been one of the best teams at hitting the over overall on the season. 35, 25, and 2. That's good for 58% of their games. You kind of feel like this might be a bullpen game for the Red Sox. They're starting Matt Dermody, who's coming up from the minors here. He's been in the he's been in baseball since 2013, but only has 27 1/3 innings of major league experience under his belt when he's been up in the majors. 17 runs allowed on 31 hits over that span. Guardians are not a great hitting club, but I think they can get to him here. And this Red Sox bullpen, they're starting Savali. I think the Red Sox should be able to take care of him. So I like over 8.5 runs here tonight.
Tanner, put up your bukes.
Yeah, I do love that overplay, but I'm going to take a little different version of it. I'm just going to take the Guardians to win outright tonight. Knowing that the Red Sox have a bullpen game going, I don't see Dermody staying in this game too long. I think Cleveland's going to be able to hit the baseball. We've seen that throughout this series so far. They've gotten to the Red Sox bullpen. And Aaron Savali only has 17 innings on the mound this season, but been very efficient. And the Red Sox just have not been that efficient over their recent stretch, right? They're not winning consistently. The offense has been up and down. So I think the Guardians, even though it's slightly juiced, considering the talent level there and their offense, I still like it tonight.
Gare Bear, punch away.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to a total here. I'm going to take the under in the New York White Sox game. It's at 9 right now. Don't love this pitching matchup. I mean, you've got Randy Vasquez going for the Yankees, making just his second career start. I understand that. Mike Clevenger has been very underwhelming so far this season, but these teams can't score. I mean, the last 2 weeks, the White Sox have a WRC plus of 88. The Yankees WRC plus is 86, and that is a span of time where they've mostly had the services of Aaron Judge, which they do not for at least the next 10 days. So I just think these two teams struggle to score. I think this stays under 9.
All right, Bukes. Samir, I want you to go quickly here. Last one. Just give me your favorite prop on the board.
Yeah, Reed Detmer's over 6.5 strikeouts. I know these guys haven't been on board with him here, but he does generate a lot of swings and misses. Cubs, one of the most strikeout-prone teams in the league against lefties, over 25%, giving him over 6.5 strikeouts at plus 110.
Gary, and your top prop tonight.
Looking for a way to bet against the Mets, so I'll take Spencer Strider to pick up a win at plus 100. The Mets are 6-18 their last 24 games against teams above 500. They do not beat good teams. Expect the Braves to get up early and Strider to get a win.
Bring us home, Tanner.
Reed Detmer's over 4.5 hits allowed. He's allowed this number in 4 of his past 5 games. The Cubs do strike out a lot, but they also hit lefties very well. So I see him giving up some hits tonight and giving up runs early.
Gentlemen, I love you three. Mean it. Love all of you for watching. We'll see you back here for a Friday edition of The Sweat presented by DraftKings tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time.
Great show.